Morning all. Is it a bit windy where you are? It's certainly very windy here. So this is episode 40 of the Inventive Marketing Podcast. And it's very windy here. I'm up in the attic in the house, so things are blowing around. I was worried about our chickens whipping around in the stall this morning. How are things down your way, Claire?
Yeah, pretty blustery here, to be honest. I don't think the ponies are enjoying it. Yeah, I hope I don't see them fly past.
No, I hope not. How are you doing, Nikki?
I'm good, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, apart from this wind. We had our trampoline was pushed across the field this morning.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was right at the other end of the farmer's field. We had to walk it back.
I've got visions of cows and sheep jumping on it.
Yeah, it was exactly like that in the morning, Nikki. Right, let's get started. Because this is a revised version, so hopefully we'll fit it within time. So this morning we're going to be looking at LinkedIn Essentials. This is it's a repeat of one I did, 3 years ago or something like that. It was episode number 4. So I've revised it, brought it up to date a little bit and changed things around. So because things change within LinkedIn. So let's get us onto focus mode. It's quite fun actually using Zoom for everything rather than Demio. There's so many more features and functions. So hopefully everything's working correctly. There, I should be the main image that you can see now. So this is like the basics of LinkedIn. We did do another one with Jack as well. So he dived into sort of the communication aspect of it and using it as a lead generation tool. What I'm going to be focusing on here, although there's lots of little useful bits, is really making sure your profile is up to date and some good tips on getting to know the features. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just pose a few questions here for you to think about. Maybe you could answer them in the chat as we go along. And if we've got time at the end, we can dive into a Q&A. So I'd like to know how you use LinkedIn. Do you find it useful? I actually prefer LinkedIn to many of the other social networks. I find it works at my pace. That could be given my age. It could be given the fact that I actually prefer a lot of asynchronous communication rather than constant real-time video, although I love video. How do you connect with people? And what do you look for in a LinkedIn profile? I think that just as a little bit of market research, it's always interesting to find out what people find interesting and engaging about other people's LinkedIn profiles. So just as a little bit of an overview, I find LinkedIn a really good place for sharing specifically business content. I think you can get a little bit personal if that's relevant, not too personal on LinkedIn, but let's keep it professional. But it is a really good place for sharing. And I think I mentioned a bit later on that, in fact, in the next slide, that LinkedIn has a really high proportion of the blogs that get shared from LinkedIn. So it's really useful for that. I think if you want to have a self brand and you want to be well known in the business community, then having a decent LinkedIn profile will give you a good, it gives you an authoritative result in Google search when people are looking for you. So if you don't have a profile, then you're just not, and you don't have any personal website or other pages, you don't really want your Facebook page to come up. You want LinkedIn to come up and you want that to be a great profile, because that's, unless you have your own website, that is going to be the first result that comes up. It's also really good for engagement. I think LinkedIn has actually improved this over time and it's become a lot better in just using it as a messaging tool and actually a really good lead generator. So just a couple of LinkedIn stats to set the scene. I've updated this since last time. They now have 756 million users. That's up by about 23% since when we started 2019, I think that was. And the monthly active users are 310 million. That is up by 19%. So it definitely has, it's grown slowly. It's certainly not as big as Facebook or many of the others, but it does have a very specific niche. And I think people who use it either tend to not use it at all or really enjoy it. But I don't think people hate it yet. But this is interesting, that a lot of social traffic, it provides, like, of all sort of business blogs and business links shared out there, it provides 64% of them come from LinkedIn. So it just shows how powerful it is as a driver to the website, which is what I use it for. And I advocate, if people want traffic to their website, LinkedIn can be a really good way of driving that. Whereas a lot of the other social channels and social networks, really don't want you leaving. And so they want all the content and all the communication to be within that particular network. I think LinkedIn likes that too. However, the way people use it is sharing links, sharing blogs, sharing articles, and inevitably that links off site. And it's got very high engagement on its mobile platform as well. And I actually don't use their mobile app, but it is very useful if you're meeting a lot of people. It's a quick way to connect with them. I will be showing you a way to send voice memos though, using it, which you might find useful. If you want to have a look at more of those stats, I've left a link in the bottom here in very small writing. So let's just have a look through the profile. And you might remember Tom. He was on our last show before Christmas with the puppet. So I thought his was quite a fun profile to demonstrate here. With a profile, I think it just needs to be professional and friendly, really. It needs to showcase who you are, so the real person behind the picture, but also be professional. The amount of times I've seen photos from holiday on the profile photo, so or a wedding, it's obviously, I can see why people pick it, because it's where they think they look most attractive and nice and presentable maybe, but you can always see that they've cut out other people in the picture, or there's a wine glass that was in their hand that they've cut out, and it just doesn't look right, or the lighting's wrong. I think if you take your LinkedIn profile seriously, you want to get a decent photo in decent light that's professionally taken, or just taken on a good day outside. Maybe even do something like Tom and make it a bit more striking, make it resemble who you are. So his is a bit more fun. He's got a nice orange background, and it does actually stand out when you're scrolling through the feed. You want to write, certainly in the main headline, how you help people. So try and think about what you actually bring to business, what you bring to working with people, if that's specifically what you want. So in Tom's case, he brings brands to life with humor and puppets. After all, who doesn't like puppets? So, I mean, that in itself, if you see a post of his and you come across that, it's intriguing. You might want to take a further click to see what it's all about. We've talked about recent photo. Try and make sure you're smiling, but not in a creepy way, that you're approachable, that you need to represent who you are. So when people meet you, whether it's on Zoom like this, or they meet you in person, it looks like you. You don't want it to be a picture that doesn't look like you in person. It has to represent you. Which is why I say don't use photos from holiday. What you can also do up in the top banner section is you can have a bit of fun up there. You can put some graphics in, just a profile banner. You can put your contact details in there. I've seen people do that. That's quite a good idea, because it's so clear. It's one of the first things you see. And then you've got a further section down the bottom that isn't really shown here, the About section. This is where you can start sharing a bit more information about you. You can put contact details in there, things you want people to know, a bit more detail about how you help people. Keep it simple, or at least keep it clear. You can actually have quite a detailed about page. Try not to have just a whole load of text on the about page. Split it out, make it clear for people to read and scan. And also, I've seen this as well. In fact, I picked it up as a tip from one of the recommendations I've got right at the end that you should listen to, and it's to include testimonials in your about page as to why people work with you and why they should buy from you. I mean, really, this is going to depend on what you're trying to optimize for. Where I'm picking my advice really is people who are either promoting their own company, or they're working within a company and they're trying to promote that company. So they're not necessarily working for a school or something like that. It's actually where you're trying to promote that business. Okay, endorsements and recommendations. Now this was a more important area to LinkedIn. I feel it's lost some love over time. Maybe I can get hands up on who actually uses these, because I still occasionally give endorsements and recommendations, and I'll actually write little testimonials about people, and I will occasionally get them, but it's not something that I find a lot of people mention a lot to me. And certainly I don't find people have seen them on my profile. So I don't know how well they work anymore, but I'll show you them when we go through and have a quick look through the profile. I think it can be a good way of, if nothing else, when you work with someone, actually just connecting with them and giving them some thanks. So it's a good excuse to connect with them and then actually give them a recommendation at the end, which other people can see. So if nothing else, it's a really good way of showing your appreciation for the work you've done. And usually what happens when you do that, LinkedIn will recommend that other people recommend you back. And so you can get testimonials that way. I mean, I'm just interested in, do people actually see that area, and does it help you decide to work with someone? Maybe you can let me know a bit later on. Nikki, you've put a few comments in here to see if they're relevant. So Nikki says they use LinkedIn as their main communicator to our connections. Yeah, so it's almost like a little bit of a CRM where you can dive in and actually communicate with people who aren't quite within your wheelhouse yet. We find it's best for engagement and it's more relaxed now. Yes. And it can be more fun. I think it feels more real to me now than just people are presenting their real self rather than their sort of business persona. In the main anyway. If I'm asked to give them, I actively, sorry, let me read this again. So Nikki talking about recommendations. If I am asked to give them, I haven't actively asked for them myself. Yeah. So you do them if someone asks. Does LinkedIn do it automatically? I've not seen it do that, frankly. I mean, I think they leave it there, but it doesn't seem to get much love. So that's why I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on it, because I think it's actually the social engagement that gets you more impact, which is what I'm going to come on to next. So a couple of ideas on social engagement and I found this works really well, is just to be the first to comment. So LinkedIn, like a lot of other social networks, has a feed, and people will put something into that feed. So it could be about a project they've won, a charity they're working with, a new client, or something interesting that's going on in their business, or some new technology they've developed, whatever it might be, whatever they're sharing. A good suggestion I mentioned to other people, if they're struggling on what to actually write in any social network, is be the first to comment. Be the first to help other people get more reach. Because what I find, if you do that, if someone's posted a question, and this is a bit easier to engage. So someone posts a question, I need help with this, or what do you think about this situation? If you can be the first person to put a comment on there, what I tend to find is you get everyone else who then comments after you will agree with you and mention you by name often. So you get a bit more attention than you would if you were to come in 10 comments down. So if you can, you're better off to be the first commenter in there. What you're also doing is you are helping give that other person more reach. So your followers are now going to see that post, and you are giving I don't know what you'd call it. You're giving validity to that message, to that comment, that post, that it's worth other people's time to comment on. And it's a bit like a video I'm going to show you in a minute, which I know, Nikki, you've seen many times. It's called The First Follower. And it's all about, if you can be that first person to follow, to comment, to engage with that post, that makes it easier for other people to do that. So you can be very supportive and help a lot of people by engaging with their posts. That means you might build up a better relationship with that person, but also I found that as other people comment, they start referring back to your comment or agreeing with you. So you get recognition that way. Let's have a very quick look at the video. Now, I'm not going to play it all. Oh, is it not going to work now? There we go. This is, I'm trying out a new method in Keynote where you can actually embed YouTube videos and play them live, which works quite well. I'm just going to very briefly explain this for people who haven't seen it, but I recommend you watch this. So go onto YouTube and search for leadership lessons with Dancing Guy. Basically what's happening is you've got this crazy guy who is dancing at a festival, and then you get one person who joins in with this crazy guy. Now, I think initially the guy in the green shirt, whose t-shirt, who's actually joined the crazy guy, is mocking him a little bit. But in doing that, what he's done is actually made the crazy guy a little bit more valid, because he's joined him. He's making that group a bit more important. And then at some point, the guy will call back to his friends. He turns around, calls to his friends, because he's feeling a little bit lonely, and he doesn't want to feel crazy. So he's bringing other people in. So this other guy comes in. And what you see over the course of this video, and the narrator will describe it better than me, is you'll see that as more and more people join the group, it becomes better to be in that group with the crazy guy than it does in the group of everyone else watching. And you suddenly see a huge rush of people. You can start to see that momentum building already. And that's a tipping point. And that's what you really want to see in engagement. But the key thing I wanted to highlight here is that moment right at the beginning. That moment where the first guy joins the crazy guy and then brings other people into the conversation. If you can be that person on social media, you can be that first follower, not necessarily the crazy person, but the first follower. That is where I think you get the maximum amount of benefit, because you haven't had to be too risky and too crazy by stepping out there with whatever it is you're sharing. Hopefully it's, again, not too personal, but what you do is you can reap the benefits of everyone else coming on and supporting you. So definitely watch that. It's called Leadership Lessons from Dancing Guy. Okay, posting. So, I mean, we tend to use it, Claire has been using it on my behalf for quite some time now. We post clips of lots of different things, really. We post blog articles on there. We post clips that Claire's made from these videos. So she takes extract from our Inventive Marketing Club videos, takes the interesting juicy bits out, and then puts videos on LinkedIn directly. And we've seen that's been pretty good actually for engagement. Claire, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on how you've been doing that might be useful.
Well, I think anything with moving image is a great way to capture people's attention on social media. That, you know, it's going to work. It will have more impact than, say, just a still photo. So yes, over the last, this year particularly, we've been very focused on getting those snippets out. And as you said, we've been getting a lot more impact.
Yeah, no, it's been very good. And I think what works quite nicely is, particularly when we've got guests, is you're able to tag in those guests and share and make sure they know that we've shared content that's relevant to them. And what that can do is then it's a prompt for them to share it with their audience, so it gets more reach. And certainly we've noticed much more engagement. We haven't noticed the clickbacks to the website yet, which is what we ultimately want, but we've noticed much more engagement. So there's probably more we can do for that. But you can use LinkedIn. I've often speak to a lot of clients who do post on LinkedIn, and they put lots of interesting articles directly out on LinkedIn or as an article on LinkedIn as an alternative to blogging on their own website, which is great. I'm really pleased that people get into the habit and the routine of actually promoting themselves or putting interesting thoughts out online. But what I want to see you do as well is take some of that content and put it onto your own website as well. So it's really good when you put stuff onto social media sites. But what a lot of people forget is you're putting out gold into these places for the social media networks to benefit from. What you want to do is also reuse that on your own website, and ultimately just use social media as a way of getting more people to come to you, to engage with you, to ultimately come through to your website or give you a call or come into your office or whatever the action is you want people to take. Go to your store. So posting is really important, and I think you should definitely share links to your blog, other content on your website. Posting videos, like Claire said, can be really easy for people to watch and engage because they'll autoplay as they scroll past, just like other social networks. And then I'm going to show you very briefly how you can actually post articles onto LinkedIn as well. So at the end of all this, I'm just going through a rough summary. We're actually going to do a bit of a walkthrough, a screen share. I'm going to walk through LinkedIn. Advanced search. Now, I admit I don't really use this much. It's just not the way I find business. I tend to find business by delivering workshops and meeting people that way. However, LinkedIn can be really useful for certain people who are reaching out. They want to engage and reach out to people and do a bit of outbound sales, really. So using the advanced search in LinkedIn allows you to pick people like your second level connections. So people who will know your first level connections. So there's some connection there. You can also put in specific keywords for the level of person you're looking for. You can look at specific locations to make sure maybe you want to find people who are near you. There's quite a good way of using advanced search to find specific people, and then you can contact them. You can reach out to them. You can connect with them. You could find out who they work for. Maybe there's a specific company you're targeting. You're trying to find the right person within that company. Advanced search allows you to do a lot of that. I'm going to dig into a little bit on this. I think it was in the other workshop webinar where we touched on it a little bit more. I don't know, Claire, maybe you could find the one that Jack was on. I don't remember the number of it, actually.
Sure.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of a screen share. Now I've put review my profile. If anyone else wants to have a showcase their profile on here, do let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through things on mine. So let me switch over. Okay, so here's the profile. Actually hasn't changed a lot that recently. It's been fairly consistent. LinkedIn are doing a lot of additional things to get people's attention, and they're sort of putting a lot of information up front in this profile. But let's have a look at the specific bits here. So we've got my profile image. That was an image taken many years ago, but it was taken by a professional photographer. It happened to be through Faster Business, which was a scheme I was working at, and I quite like it. It's I've actually got a little bit more hair there, a little bit of a cowlick going on, interestingly. But it resembles me. I think it's a good approximation of what I look like, and I think it's not too staged. It's a nice, clear image. I'm looking smart in my shirt. I wear a lot of t-shirts now, so I think it's a good approximation of me there. Around the circle, you'll see this orange little ring. Now, what that is something new called a cover story that LinkedIn is starting to do. Thanks for sharing that, Claire. So I think if I can click on this, if I click on my icon, then I can, what I can do is actually add a little video intro, talking, sharing whatever I want to share. So if we have a look at that now. So I don't know if you can hear that coming across, but I recommend all go and have a look at my profile. You can have a look and see what it looks like. But it's basically me just talking to the camera saying, hello, this is who I am. This is what I do. It's my networking pitch. It's my little 30-second pitch just to showcase who I am. And I quite like it. I really like the way that is done. You can do that through the app. So you need to go into the actual app to do that more easily. That's the only way it lets you do it. We'll see if we can showcase that. I'll see if I can do a screen share of the phone to show where that is. But I think that's a really good idea, putting something like that on. I mean, video is so powerful in showing the real you. Actually, when people, particularly in what I do, people need to trust you and know you, and video is a very good way of helping accelerate that process of getting to know someone. So I recommend you have a look into generating one of these covers. But as I said, you will need the mobile phone app to do that. So that's the first thing. Then it puts a little ring around there. Then this open to work badge. I mean, it was recommended to put on there by LinkedIn. It's just saying I'm open. I'm looking to work with people. I've not noticed any impact from that whatsoever, but I do like the fact that it makes my profile show up a little bit more with that green sort of banner slash on there. So anything really to make me stand out when I'm in people's feeds, all the better. And then I've got a nice little banner at the back here. This was taken by Claire, I think, actually at one of our workshops in Cirencester. Again, showing me in action, really. I could take the opportunity to put some additional details over the top, but actually I'm happy with that, how it is. So underneath my name, I've got a few key details that I think are important. So the first one is an action, that if they want help with marketing or a better marketing strategy, they should hire me. So I'm not just saying, I do this, and this is how I help people. This is the action I want you to take. And so it's having a call to action quite high up on LinkedIn. If it's appropriate to you, could be worth trying out. I mean, I often experiment with this to see what is both clear about what I do, but also suggesting what I want people to do next. So that's the first important thing here. Hire me to help build a better marketing strategy. And then I put in a few other effectively keywords that I think are important for people to see or maybe to search for. So WordPress specialist, event speaker, not so much anymore. Haven't done many of those, certainly in person, although I do lots through the Growth Hub. Author, barely, did actually write a book on iTunes, but I can technically say that, and podcast. So these are just the key things that I think might help give me, help stand out, make my profile stand out a little bit. They're my USPs. So that's the sort of key things there that I think are quite important. I'm just going to scroll past a lot of this. I mean, there are some various certifications you can get through LinkedIn. I know I took one on WordPress, actually. It was WordPress and HTML, and it goes through basically asking a load of questions, and you've got a multiple choice to answer them, which I think is quite interesting. Although, I haven't seen much from it, and I think that's given the industry I'm working in. And I think if you're someone who works in a large organization, that's where qualifications can really matter. They are certain things they look for. I know my brother, he's a security specialist. Qualifications are everything. So if he can go and get a Cisco qualification or some security hacking qualification, those will be very visible and something he'll want to add effectively to his CV. That's how he uses LinkedIn. But for me, that doesn't make so much difference, because really it's about me demonstrating that I know what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do is move down to this features section here. This is quite fun. And I must admit, I haven't given this much love recently, just because we've been so busy over the last year. But I think there's a lot we can actually add to this. What this featured section allows you to do is add various different types of media in here. So you can highlight a post that you want people to see, maybe a video or a link to something. And they're the main areas I use, like a link. So what we might do is click on a link, and then you can put a link to your YouTube video in there, and it'll actually then add it to this features section. And so this gives people, it's just basically presenting the key information that you want people to see about you. It might be to demonstrate your expertise, or to showcase a bit more about you, or to showcase a product like our club that I want people to see. So that's definitely something that if you haven't got anything in there at the moment, it's definitely worth looking at getting stuff in there. And just a note on this front, I mean, we all might be looking at it from the point of view of our own LinkedIn profiles. But let's say if you're someone like Nikki and is helping manage the marketing for Eclipse, you should be thinking about everyone's profiles within the business. I'm sure you are, Nikki, but actually thinking about everyone's profiles in the business and then passing this information on to them. So getting them to make sure their profiles are up to date, getting them to have featured content that relates back, that links back, or their videos, link back to the website, or videos that are important. And so what you end up having is a very coherent strategy between all of the key staff who are active on social media, presenting the right image. And then the other benefit you can get, and Claire does a little bit of this with the posting, is that she will put the little clips and videos and links onto our business page first, business profile first, and then Claire, will share them from that profile on my as part of my activity. So it means that when people do look at the business, they get a sort of flow of what's going on, but then I can share that content as well. And when I share the content, I get a lot more visibility than the business page, but it's really useful to have it on the business page if people want to know more about Rather Inventive. But you can imagine that multiplies up as you have more and more people in the company. If let's say Nikki is sharing everything about Eclipse on the business page for Eclipse, and then encouraging employees who have active LinkedIn profiles to go and share that content's going to get a lot more visibility. So that's the features section. Then we got activity. So this is just my latest activity, stuff that I've been posting and doing on LinkedIn. So you can see really LinkedIn is much more about the activity. They get to that pretty quickly. And then the about section, this has actually sunk down the list over time. But let's have a look at the about section here. So I actually feature in this first section, right at the top, some key bits of information about how I help work with people. And it goes on from my headline above. It also features the telephone, some contact details. And those will show, those first two lines will show without people having to click. Obviously, I've clicked now, so we can see a bit more information. But if you make sure that the pertinent information is in those first two lines, then it's going to be visible to everyone without clicking. And then I go on to just explain a bit more information. I've incorporated testimonials into my copy here. So some of my fab customers say, working with Rather Inventive has been productive as a business and also quite enjoyable. Well, that's nice. I always want things to be enjoyable. And they also tell me that. So I've incorporated some of the testimonials I get within my About profile here. And then obviously people can see more on Sayahola. So that's quite nice. I also put this little line in here, and I've had something similar to this line in at the bottom, which says, oh, and I don't work weekends. This time is spent with friends and family. I think that's been in there pretty much since I started Rather Inventive, at the very least, back in 2009. And what I like about that is some people do read that, and then they'll say, oh, I know you don't work weekends, Ben, so it's okay. We'll talk again on Monday. And I'm like, that is great, because I've now set an expectation about how they're going to work with me. And if they don't like that, if they want someone who's going to be on 24/7, there are other people who can do that. I can't do it. I just can't give that commitment. So actually saying that, something which started as a bit of fun, a bit of an offhand comment in the bottom, has been something quite useful in terms of setting boundaries and expectations, which a lot of people do appreciate. Then the experience, so some of the companies I work for, which seems like such a while ago now, including my very first job as a temp working for Global One, which was amazing. But let's skip past that and go through to recommendations. So these are first showing the recommendations given to you by other people. So we've got Chris Richards here, who's our sort of SEO go-to guru, and then a couple of other people here. So as you can see, these, I think apart from Chris's one, the rest are all quite old because I don't actively use this a lot. But Chris has said that it can be quite useful from an SEO point of view to see, to have these in here. So it's certainly could be worth it from that point of view. But I'm not sure. What I don't know is how people use these to make decisions. Do people actually, if they're looking at Ben, think, well, do I want to work with this guy? Do I want to become one of his clients? Do they skip down to this bit and read out those recommendations? I don't get any feedback that they do, but maybe you do that when you're looking at other people. I don't look at it when I know other people, but that's just me. However, I still think it can be really nice to give recommendations to people you've worked with. So I think it's a nice thing to do. So you can, looking at the given section here, oh, I've got Louise, my wife, on there as well. I think you can highlight attention to people you work with. So you can see that I've given a lot more recommendations to other people than I have received. But I think it's a nice thing to do. It's a nice way to publicly show your appreciation for the work that someone's done, whether they're a client. I mean, yeah, Ruth here was a client, so it's quite nice to showcase how nice it is to work with people. And you might get recommendations off the back of it. But don't do it necessarily to gain more engagement on your profile. Do it because it's a nice public way to say thank you. Right, do I need to just skip back? Yeah. There we go. I think that is everything I want to show you on here. I mean, there are lots of other features, but I just don't have time to go into them all now. And not all are so relevant to creating that just key profile for you. So what I'm going to have a look at now is the posting side of things. So with posting, the quickest way to get there, and you know what, I find while LinkedIn's navigation isn't too bad, I do get lost. There is no core quick homepage. There's your profile, and then there is a home section, and then you can get a bit lost in other places. But the quickest way, if you want to post something on LinkedIn, click on home at the top, and then you have an area at the top there which shows recent posts from other people, plus you can contribute to that feed as well. Now, you've got different things you can do. You can either share a photo, a video, which I think could be most effective, or you can write an article, which I'll show you in a minute. But the easiest way, just start a post and just start writing. Now, this could be you want to share a new blog post that you've put on your website. It could be an idea you've just had. It could be an image of a successful event you've just run. Whatever it is, you can do it all in here. You can add hashtags and it will suggest them for you, or you can just start typing hashtags. It starts suggesting hashtags when you actually start writing content in there. You can add hashtags just by adding the hash sign and start typing. Plus, you've got all these other features to add in photos, of which you can tag in other people. So when you do add a photo, you can tag in other people who featured in the photo. So let's say I was delivering a workshop of which Nikki, Claire came along. What I could do is actually on the photo, I could tag in Nikki and Claire, and then they get notified of that post. And so that's useful about saying who's in the photo. It's a bit like how Facebook does that. You can actually tag in certain people. What I've seen a lot of other people do is use that tagging in the photo as a way of getting people's attention. Now, I'm not sure whether I like it. It feels like it's going against the nature of that particular tool, but it's quite a good idea. You know, if you've got an event you're putting out and you want certain people to know because they're good promoters, then this can be a good way of actually getting their attention, is to actually add the photo. And when you add the photo, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, I should always have some temporary images available. I'll see if I can pick something up here. Let's put a picture of me, why not? What I can do then is actually tag other people in there. So what you're meant to do is you'd click on a section and then pick someone to actually tag in that particular image. So that's great for a group shot, but you can use that as a sneaky way to get people's attention as well. Let's cancel that. So that's really posting. There are ways to automate it using something like Buffer. That's a system we used to use, although Claire, I think you prefer to post natively, don't you?
Yes, it's much easier for like videos and to see how it's going to sort of be presented on the page. Plus you get the hashtags, you know, suggestions, which you don't get when you use Buffer. So it's a lot easier to do it directly in the program.
Yeah, I think it is. And I have a feeling that you also might get more exposure by doing it directly. I'm not sure in LinkedIn. I haven't actually done any experiments. We should maybe do that, maybe try some through Buffer, try some directly. But I know that was something with Facebook that you used to get much. If you were posting directly in Facebook, you got more reach than if you were just using another posting system. And I think that was to encourage people to actually post in that particular platform. I'm not sure if that's the case in LinkedIn. Maybe Claire, if you've got some time, you want to do that, run that experiment, but it might be interesting to know. Also, I think if you are posting directly on each platform, you get a feel for all the different features they allow. And you know, you've got a lot of rich features in here that you just can't simply do in Buffer. And the same in any social network. So it is worth spending the time to change the tone, use all the features for that particular platform. So that's sharing posting. The other thing I wanted to look at is writing an article. So let's say I want to do this. Now, this is where you use LinkedIn as your blogging platform. So if you've got something long form to say, so it would be considered a blog post. It's going to be something like at least 300 words. It's going to be something significant. Then you can use writing an article on LinkedIn as a way of getting that little extra promotion out there. It's more important than a post. So you're going to receive a bit more weight on LinkedIn for doing so. But it doesn't mean that you need to write something on here to the exclusion of your blog. What you could do, and what I've seen people do, is they'll write stuff on their website. They'll put content on their website. And then for certain stuff they want to spread, you can almost treat LinkedIn as a media outlet where you are able to get your own PR straight onto their platform because you can write it yourself. So you could take that blog article and maybe take an excerpt from that and then put it onto LinkedIn as a post. And then you can say first published on, and then refer back to the original post. So it's a good way of reusing some of the content you've got. You don't want to do that too much because you don't want too much duplication. But ultimately, you just want that content to get found and a link back to your website. It doesn't matter if people come through organically on Google search and they come through to the blog post, or they find you on LinkedIn and come through to your website that way. You just want exposure, you want reach. And writing your own article on here might be beneficial for you. We haven't done a lot of this, and I think it's probably an area that would be worth reaching into. But time, we've only got so many things that we can focus on, and the club and the video is where we spend a lot of our time. But there could be certain wrap up articles that we can put in here, maybe some headline articles that get written on our site that can go on this. I mean, certainly for you, Nikki, do you use this section at all on LinkedIn? I'll move on while you're writing. But I think it's really good way of rounding up your blog and reusing your content. You haven't yet? Okay, well, that's something we need to talk about then, because I think with the content that Karen puts out, there may be some key articles, and we've been talking about PR. This could be a useful place to put that. Okay, so let's look at just touching on messaging here. So messaging, this is my favorite part actually of LinkedIn, the bit I use quite a lot. For example, Tom Beaumont here, I discovered him on LinkedIn. So he came up in my feed because one of my contacts had commented or shared his post. I can't remember which. So he came up on our feed. And I just basically managed all of the communication with Tom directly on LinkedIn up until we needed to go to email so I could share him various things to get him onto Demio so he could present our webinar for us. And if you're interested, anyone who hasn't seen it, go back and find the webinar with Tom. It's quite funny. He talks about how he uses puppets to get engagement, some of the videos that he's done, and even one of his puppets makes an appearance, which is quite bizarre at the time. But I really love the messaging system here. And I would show you a bit more of it, but I don't want to expose too much personal information from other people. It's fine sort of showcasing the public side of LinkedIn, but I think when it comes to messaging, it's a bit more private. So I don't want to showcase that. But I have found that LinkedIn has been really quite useful for actually getting through to people. So connecting with people who I'm going to meet, maybe for an interview, or I've met them in person, or I meet them during events, usually at workshops that I've delivered. I'll try and connect with people online that way, which means that if they are interested, they can see a bit more about what I do and find out more information that way. But also you've got this direct line to communicate with them. It's not just via email, it's via LinkedIn's email. And they are less likely to ignore that. They are less likely to filter out those emails. I certainly don't, and I know a lot of other people don't. They're not going to consider them spam because some of them are legitimate. So actually using LinkedIn as a way of initially capturing people's attention and just building up a relationship with them before you move it to another forum that you're both comfortable with, I think is really useful. So yeah, you can see I had a long conversation with Tom there before we actually got to have a communication. So Claire, I think you shared Tom's episode there.
Yes,
in the chat.
Did.
That's the YouTube link. Great. Okay, what else have I got here on this screen share? So that's that. Oh yes, so let me show you. Let me go and switch over to the LinkedIn app on my phone. Hopefully it's going to work. Can you see that?
Yes.
So this is the LinkedIn app on my phone, and it allows you to do a few extra bits. So one of them I wanted to show you, if I can find it, is going into messaging. And this is where you can actually send people a voice message. So I'm going to go into Tom here. And if someone is your first connection, so not second or third, you've got to have a proper connection with them, then, and you're on the mobile app, then you can actually tap on the little mic in the bottom right-hand corner. And it brings up a little record message. And then I can record something, say, hi, Tom, thanks, really nice to meet you last week. Look forward to catching up, blah, blah, blah. I will not send that. And so that will then send them an audio message. What I love about audio, and I found this when sending emails with video in them, is it's easy to access. It's different, it's new, it's more interesting. So people are more likely to listen to your voice message on here. And the same with sending through email with video. They're more likely to watch that video than they are if it's just more text that's coming through, because that's what everyone does. So I wouldn't suggest that you get straight to audio immediately and start sending everyone messages, but I think it could be a really good way of, once you have connected with them and had a quick conversation, is maybe if you're inviting them to something or you've met them somewhere, I think it could be a really good way of helping them get to know you a bit more personally. So I really like that. It's just a shame it's only available in the app itself. Now, let me see if I can find the cover image. Now this, I struggled to find it last time. It took me a little while because it was quite new to me. So there you can see a little example of the video that shows up. So if I get through to my profile on the mobile app, if I tap on my image, then I get this little option at the bottom where I can actually view or edit my cover story. So this is where I can delete it, and then I can actually read. Oh, let me pause that because I can't think while I listen to myself talk. No. So that's where you can actually then edit your own, and you just hold up the phone and talk into it. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's a really good idea, and it's something that you should definitely try out. I don't think they're using it. I think it's quite new. So it's they're not fully showcasing it yet, and it doesn't always work. Certainly on Safari, what it should do is come up and show a little clip of a video and disappear. But it doesn't always work. I think they'll line that out. But I think they'll use this more and more. And ultimately, I think that LinkedIn will allow you to send video messages to people. So I think we should keep an eye on this. And certainly, if you haven't, get the app already and make sure your profile is up to date, including a cover story. Okay, so let me see. Is there anything else I've got here? I think that was it. That's all I wanted to share. Oh, well, yeah, one final bit, actually. I think I'm going to mention this in the tips, but I will show you now. I like the advanced search in LinkedIn, but another way you can search is to use Google, because there's a lot of information that is publicly available on LinkedIn. So that means Google can go and scrape it. So what you can do in Google, if you put in this command here, which is site : and then linkedin.com/in, and then a phrase afterwards. What that means is Google is going to search for that phrase within the site linkedin.com and the directory /in. Now /in means it's a person. So what we're going to look at is we want to look at people who have somewhere within their profile, marketing manager, Bristol in this case. Obviously you can put any keywords in you like. So if I run that, I've now got a list of people who are marketing managers in Bristol. Now, something fun you can try, and I'm not so into this, but some people are. Some people are really into seeing who is looking at their profile. And so what you can do is you can click through and bring up the profiles of those people. And when you do, they'll get notified, or it'll be, they will have sight of that you have seen their profile. Now, depending if they've got a premium account on LinkedIn, then they'll see it. If they don't, then they don't see everyone. You're seen as an aggregate. But it's actually quite a good way of finding people, because you're using the power of Google's search engine to search through LinkedIn, which I think is slightly better than LinkedIn search. But it also enables you to very quickly click on their profiles, which loads them up in separate tabs. And then it's a little nudge to say, I've looked at your profile. And some people find that interesting enough, they'll click on you and look back at your profile. So it might be an interesting experiment to try. But I would say, if nothing else, use it for the advanced search, because you can use the power of Google to actually search like that. Okay, let's get back to the presentation and round off for our last hour here. Okay, more tips. So getting noticed, this is just basically what I mentioned there. Visit other people's profiles, because it can nudge them and show them that you're looking. You can use Google in the way I described, using that site : linkedin.com/in, and that helps it focus only on profiles, because otherwise you get all other stuff at LinkedIn, and that'll help you find people. And, you know, I think it's slightly easier to use than LinkedIn search. The only thing that you would be limited on is you can't say, I want second level connections. So people who know your first level connection. Use personal pages. They rule over business pages. So if you're posting content just to your business page and you're expecting a lot of traffic from that, you're just not going to get so many people looking for your company on LinkedIn. But if you post content to your company and to your personal page, your personal profile page as a post, you will get a lot more engagement, because that feed will get shown amongst all the people who are following you. And so definitely, if you want to promote content, use personal pages. I suggest putting it on your business page as well, and then reshare it from there, but use personal pages. And like I was saying earlier, if you've got a number of employees who are on LinkedIn, once their profiles are up to date, get them to post the content as well. Staying connected. So connect with people you meet. I think that's how people usually use it, or connect with people you are going to meet. Claire and I were just talking before this started, and Claire suggested about connecting with people who are going to come on to the actual show. So people I don't know, I've not met them, but we're going to meet them on the show. So actually bring them on that way. That way, once we're connected to them and Claire puts out the little clips that she makes afterwards, she can tag them in. And so we've got that opportunity of that message spreading a little bit further, because we've got a wider audience to spread it via. Something I found quite useful is to ask a question when connecting as well. So if you have met them somewhere, maybe, because let's use my example, I've delivered a workshop, so I've met them at the workshop. Maybe I can ask, oh, how did the search optimization go? Did that title trick work, or whatever it might be? So you are asking a question, you're interested in what they're doing, rather than saying, hey, do you want to connect? Now that's fine, but it's not a conversation starter. You need to start that and get that conversation going on. And it's not, I'm not being disingenuous by doing that. I am interested to find out how it's going, but I know that asking a question, people will answer that question, and hopefully that will start a conversation. Become a tribe. I've actually done a whole webinar on this, or there are 3 big ideas that I suggested, and one of them was become a tribe. I will very briefly explain it, but I want you to go and watch club session 28. And if you start 37 minutes in, you'll get to the section where I'm talking about starting a tribe. But watch the whole lot of it. It's all good. But if you haven't got much time, start 37 minutes in until the end, which it's only going to be another 20 minutes. But essentially, the idea of a tribe is to bring a group of businesses together, or people within those businesses together, and get them all to share each other's content. Only share it if it's good. Don't just share everything. Only share if it's good, and obviously comment as well if you can. So not just share it, but actually provide a comment. Start the engagement going. Be that first follower. So I've got the first bullet here is the idea of when. Well, that's the Worcestershire Education Network, or the Education Network as they're called now. And it's a group of people looking to promote, the group of businesses looking to promote themselves to schools. And what we've done on there is every blog article or good news story that's happening within the members at WEN gets posted onto the blog, and that also gets posted onto LinkedIn, their LinkedIn business page. What I recommended everyone do from the membership is set a reminder every week to look at the business page, have a scoot through some of the recent feeds, and any they feel that resound with them or connect with them, just share it. But if they can comment on it and say, oh, well done, congratulations on the new project, that looks great, whatever it might be, start that engagement process, actually put a comment on there. And so what happens then is you get a lot more engagement onto your blog, onto your LinkedIn profile, by everyone just taking 5 minutes out of their day to work within their group that they formed. It could be even just within the company. I mean, there's no reason why you can't have a tribe within the company, but ideally you want it outside of the company, multiple businesses working together. It could be local food businesses. It could be I don't know, in my industry, it could be lots of different marketers, copywriters, people doing AdWords, SEO, all of those, sort of small group of them coming together and sharing each other's content. It will multiply up the amount of people who actually see what you do. So I recommend go and have a watch of episode 28 of the club webinar, start 37 minutes in, to find out a bit more about that. Two more things I want to share with you before I finish. This is a podcast from Evolving SEO with a LinkedIn expert, Viveka von Rosen. I actually got a few tips from this. It's about an hour long. It's actually pretty good. So listen to it. If you're on a car journey, pop this on. If you're walking the dog, have a listen to this. There's some really good tips and advice in there, some of which I might not have mentioned. The other one I'm going to mention to you is this one. And this is Alex Galvez. And I actually interviewed her, when was it? 2019. So it would have been probably in 2018. I actually interviewed her before it actually went online. Because she had sort of created this huge network within LinkedIn called LinkedIn Local. Since then, LinkedIn have actually taken LinkedIn Local themselves. They've sort of taken that away. But it was just interesting to see how she started this movement, because she got a lot of momentum just by working with other people. Goes back to the idea of the tribe. So listen to that. There's lots of good advice on there as well about using LinkedIn. And also, if you're interested, there's a lot more that she says on LinkedIn as well. So that's everything I've got to share on our particular show today. Let me get back out of focus mode. Right. Well, thank you. It's 11 o'clock. So we've reached the hour. That's great. Do you know what we've got on next week, Claire, as you organize everything now?
Yes, Ben, we were hoping to look at some homepages, but we're still to confirm.
But that's right. Yes, we were going to do a landing page review. So it's going to be looking at people's homepage or landing page and looking at ways to improve the number of visits to it, maybe some optimization ideas. It's a bit of fun, really. So looking for people who actually want to come and lay bare their website and get it ripped apart by the group, and see if we can come up with some really good ideas to improve what's going on. So that's the idea.
Ben, I think I'd be up for that.
Hey, Ethan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Philippa forwarded me the link for today.
I think that would be good, actually. I think that would be really useful, because obviously we've worked on your site. So, it might be critiquing our own work, but hey, I'm up for that. We just want to improve things, and there may be certain ideas that you want to take into the future. And so, okay, right.
Yeah.
Claire?
Yeah, I'd be up for that. If you could send me, because I think Philippa and I get different notifications of what happens on Basecamp. So I'd be up for, sharing our website and people critiquing, so we can make amendments. That would be great.
Brilliant. I'll be in touch with you shortly.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I hope the wind doesn't damage everything. It's calming down a bit now, but it might whip up. But hopefully it's okay. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all next week for the landing page review.